So, finally, it is time for me to talk about a game that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is Shin Megami Tensei, or if you prefer to call it retroactively, Shin Megami Tensei 1. So, this is basically where the Megami Tensei franchise kind of became its own thing. Megami Tensei 1 and 2 existed, but Mega Ten 1 was basically a very loose adaptation of the third novel in the series, and Megami Tensei 2 was almost like a fan sequel almost, except, well, I guess it was official, but uh, it was basically book 4. It was like an alternate continuity type thing. Shin Megami Tensei 1 is the first game that's kind of set in its own world more so, and really the book's influence is still there, I guess, but they really run with it and do their own thing finally. Now, a lot of people are somewhat more familiar with this than they are Megami Tensei 1 and 2, at least in the Western fan base, because this is as far back as we can currently go at the time of recording, and it's been that way for like forever now. This was fan translated by a group known as Aeon Genesis, and then a few more patches came out to kind of improve the game. There's a patch that lets you map the map function to the shoulder buttons of the controller, and then there's also a improvement patch made by Orden that cleans up the translation and fixes some bugs a little bit. And then finally, just a few months ago actually, as of this recording, we have Shin Megami Tensei 1 iOS, which was officially translated by Atlas themselves. And if you're looking to play this game, I have to say go with the iOS version, even though, you may not like playing mobile games. If you take out platform considerations, controller considerations, all that, it is objectively the superior version. There is a lot of just functional things that are added to that version that just should have been in the original but weren't. They kind of modernized a bit. It's still fairly archaic in a sense, but they touch it up enough so that it feels playable more so than the Super Nintendo version. As for the story, now you play as an average silent protagonist. I'm assuming like a 18-year-old or just a high school age boy in Tokyo living with your mom and your dog in a very small house in the suburbs of Tokyo. And one day you have a very strange dream that kind of foreshadows the rest of the game and says you have quite the destiny ahead of you. And you wake up, just kind of shrug it off, I guess. And then you get an email that has a program attached to it called the Demon Summoning Program that will allow you to talk and negotiate with demons and then summon them for your own usage. Probably thinking that the person sending it is crazy, just kind of shrug that off too. Download it, but whatever. And then your mom comes around and says, "Hey, go get some coffee." So while you're out, go getting her some coffee. I don't know why she couldn't just make it herself. That lazy mother. Anyways, when you're out getting coffee, you see a man attacked by a demon. So, oh shit, demons are real and they're invading Tokyo. And the rest of the game goes from there. You meet some friends and foes along the way. And then the game kind of takes a turn where it becomes a bit more gray towards the 1/4 mark. There comes a point where you kind of need to look at your own beliefs and decide which of these various factions fighting are in the moral right. And that's where Shin Megami Tensei 1 really gets interesting. You have the American government getting involved, you have this rebel group getting involved, and there's this military coup that the Japanese government has kind of went through, and it's kind of more militaristic approach that they're taking. And there's nobody's really in the right. Everyone's just kind of fighting for their own personal ideologies. And for a game that came out, I'm pretty sure the year before I was born, yeah, I think 92, that is groundbreaking. We still had, okay, put it this way. When this game came out, we were still getting things like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, where there are the good guys, there are the bad guys. There's very little moral ambiguity there. You just kill everything that's evil and then you save the day. This makes you actually think. And nowadays that's pretty common, having anti-heroes or sympathetic villains or whatever and what have you is more commonplace today, but for a game that came out in the early 90s, that was almost unheard of. So for a game to actually challenge the status quo, if you will, and say, hey, this is how conflict in the real world works, and then actually display that in the game itself, was really revolutionary. And that's kind of where the alignment system kicks in. So throughout the game, you can either go law, chaos, or neutral. And that kind of decides what ending you get and who you side with and what demons you can summon, where you can heal, just a lot of stuff like that. And it may seem a little simple compared to the later alignment stuff that we have going on in the more recent Megami Tensei games. But you must understand still, for the time that most Japanese role-playing games didn't have an alignment system thing going on like this, it really was unheard of. So it's pretty cool actually to see that for such an early game. And I guess you could say this is probably the first real-time alignment is used, because Megami Tensei 1 did not have any alignment whatsoever. Megami Tensei 2 sorta did, but it wasn't so much alignment as it was you basically had two endings. You could go for the bad ending or the good ending, pretty much. Like, the law ending was kind of just the shit ending you got if you sided with the antagonist, and the chaos ending was the good ending. There really wasn't much moral ambiguity there. This is the first game of the series where it's a little more open-ended, and you can side with whatever faction you choose. So, yeah, really cool stuff, and really, honestly, kind of a risky move, because there's a lot of possibility to go wrong. And I will say that the execution for this game with the alignment stuff isn't always there. Sometimes it gets a little broken at points, or sometimes it's kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. But for the first time they ever did it, they did a fairly good job. You may notice that I'm kind of talking about this game in terms of like historical significance and stuff, and yeah, because I think that's a major part of enjoying this game, is that you need to kind of respect the time it came out, and you need to put yourself in the shoes of a Japanese video game fan in the early 90s to, I think, really truly appreciate this game. And I'm not gonna lie, that can be hard for people. For me, I really do love this game, despite its very dated and minimalistic story, the somewhat broken features, and BS gameplay design choices. I'm not gonna lie, those are all there, and those are all problems. But if you're willing to forgive the execution for the ideas and premise based off of the time period it came out, I think this is a game that is really, really enjoyable, and it has a very unique charm to it that it's very hard to describe, but playing this game, it's kind of enthralling in a way. You just can't put it down if you get really into it. Hell, I've gotten all three endings of this game, which I think a lot of people will probably say I'm crazy for, because they couldn't stand playing this game for that long, or they could only play it through once and then they were done. I really enjoyed it all three times. So I don't know what to tell people, but there's just it's a very unique feel you get from this game that is sort of there in the other Mega 10 games, but you can see the full vision that they had here. And it almost feels like the other Megami Tensei games are just kind of taking ideas from this and kind of spinning it into their own thing. But this feels like the full, complete idea of the premise that they were going for, if you will. So now I want to talk about the gameplay real quick, because I think that's the major issue with this game for a lot of people. It is very old. It is archaic is a word that a lot of people use to describe this game. That's how I describe this game too. It isn't necessarily the most fun thing to play through. And you can tell that the developers, even back then, because nowadays, modern day Megami Tensei is known for its difficulty. And I honestly feel that when designing this, the developers intended to make this game hard, just with their usage of just status effects and instant death spells and the encounter rate and all that. I feel like this game was intentionally hard on purpose. Only problem is that you can break this really easily and make this game a cakewalk if you just kind of look up a guide. Even if you don't look up a guide, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that using Zeo spells or using Bufu spells will almost always cause the enemy to be stunned and skip their turn. And also that charm is broken as fuck. Basically, status effects in general in this game are super overpowered. Honestly, I find it funny because a lot of RPGs have a problem where status effects just don't do anything or they're useless, aside from like poison, which is slightly annoying. You see that a lot. This game has the opposite problem where status effects are too good. It's really interesting to see a game like that. I can't really think of any other game where that's the case. But I will say that looking at this game compared to more recent Mega 10 games, modern Mega 10 games, the difficulty comes more so from the battles and the battles themselves, where random encounters can be kind of scary because if you're not paying attention during a random encounter, they will kill you. But generally in Mega 10, the real difficulty comes in the boss fights, which you need to be crazy prepared for. You need to bring the right party, right skill set, and everything like that. And this game is very different in that regard. The difficulty in modern Mega 10, like I've said, isn't from the dungeon, it's from the boss battle. Now, this game is the reverse, where you learn pretty early on in this game that you shouldn't really be afraid of the boss at the end of the dungeon, because they're all pushovers, aside from like maybe one or two. The real difficulty in this game stems from the fact that there is a shit ton of random encounters that may be weak, but if you have some bad luck, they will fuck up your day. Whether it be from instant death spells or status effects or just being ambushed. This game isn't so much about the battle strategy and tactics and stuff. This game is about withering away your resources until you die a slow and very painful death by 1,000 cuts. And that's not something that everyone is going to be able to get into. It is a very slow process. It's a very long process. This game is quite the grind in some places. There are numerous times where you're going through a long, long dungeon towards the end of the game, and you realize, fuck, I don't have enough healing spells or I don't have enough MP. I'm going to need to go back and restock and then go back in. That's honestly where half the difficulty comes from in this game. It's not so much the actual battle strategy stuff, because for the majority of battles, what you're gonna do is use charm or an electrical attack or an ice attack or whatever to basically take the enemy out, and then just wail on them with your other party members. You don't really need to think that much. You just use what works, really. And that method that I just listed is basically what you're gonna want to go for. Maybe buff and debuff for some bosses, but aside from that, this game in terms of battle strategy really doesn't require too much thinking, especially compared to more recent entries in Megami Tensei. Now, that said, one thing I do want to give this game credit for is that a lot of times RPGs have a problem, especially older RPGs like this game, with just battles being slow and not just kind of a slog to get through, especially if the game is grindy. What I will give this game credit for is that you go in and out of battles very quickly, and battles are generally very quick. I feel like that kind of takes the grind out of it, so that's I mean, the grinding is still kind of a problem, but it helps definitely that you're not waiting for like 20 seconds to get in and out of a battle sequence, so that's really nice. As for the music, music is okay. I really like some of the tracks, such as the ending theme. I thought it was really good, and then the random battle track I really like, but it's nothing like too stunning, like nothing really that noteworthy in my opinion. It's very interesting just because I'm used to like Super Nintendo RPGs and stuff to have more of like a I don't know how to describe it. Like I guess like a cinematic or orchestral sounding, a little bit more classical sounding tracks to go along with the generally high fantasy setting and stuff like that or whatever. This game's music is very contemporary. It's kind of kind of rock, kind of punk-y in some points. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more contemporary, which of course fits a lot better. In terms of graphics, this game is subpar, I guess. So I should point out that I usually don't. I'm not that much of a graphics guy. Like the only time I really ever feel that graphics are a bother is if they're actively hideous or they just look super disgusting or like it interferes with the gameplay or something else that's going on or they just may not fit. Like generally I don't really care that much to talk about graphics. I just wanted to bring it up here because this game is very empty, especially the dungeon crawling. Like the walls and floor and all that are just pretty blank. If you're looking for something that's super duper eye candy, visually stimulating, then this isn't your game. But then again, Megami Tensei as an entire franchise never really been known for its graphics. I mean, even the more recent stuff, they just look fine. They've never been like crisis levels of amazing CGI and whatnot. Atlas just doesn't have the budget for that. So yeah, I mean this kind of fits. I think it's interesting to look at this game graphically because you kind of get a feel for what a lower budget game in the early 90s felt like, and it feels like this game. It looks kind of, it almost reminds me of like a DOS game in some cases, just with the way that the sprites pop on screen and just the windows that they use and the battle menu stuff and all that. You really get the impression, yeah, that this is kind of a smaller budget game. And I mean, even when you look at the credits, not that many people are listed, even compared to other games at the time. It definitely feels like just this smaller team that just kind of got around in an office and said, "Hey guys, want to make a game? We got enough money. You know, we don't have enough for all parts maybe, but we can definitely make a playable, decent game." And then everyone's like, "Sure, why not? Let's do this." And they just worked their ass off and they got the game out. That's kind of what this feels like. So it's really interesting because Atlas has never really had that much money, and even way back in the 1990s, early 1990s, you can feel that. So never change, Atlas, never change. So I'm gonna close up part one. I think about now. I've said everything I wanted to say that I can say without spoiling parts of the game. So yeah, part two of this review is going to be full of spoilers. I'm just basically going to spoil the entire game. I'm going to start from the beginning of the game's plot all the way to the end and just talk about everything I loved about it and what I maybe disliked about it in some cases. So yeah, generally I rate stuff out of 10. I don't really feel like I can do that with this because there are two, from what I've seen, just from being a fan of this game, there are two people that play this game. There are the people that will play it for like the first 3, 4 dungeons and then drop it because they can't stand the gameplay. And then there are people that will fall in love with this game. Maybe not as much as I did, where I played through it like 3 times, but this game honestly is the definition of love it or hate it, in my opinion. Either you can stand it and you're gonna love the game, or just the gameplay is gonna throw you off. So I don't know what to rate this, honestly. I really don't feel like I can, because personally, to me, this game is a 9 out of 10. To the average Mega 10 fan, even, like the modern day Mega 10 fan, I feel like they'd give this like anywhere from like a 4 to a 7. And then for, I guess, just gamers in general, this game is probably a 2 out of 10 to someone that's just a casual game fan, because, man, this gameplay has not aged well at all. So try it out. Maybe you'll love it, maybe you won't. And yeah.